In this in-depth review of the Kobo Clara 2e, we will have a look at the build quality, contrast, lighting quality and the software of the newest 6-inch e-reader from Kobo. Without further ado, let's jump right in and first have a quick look at the specs of the device before checking out how well it does in the real world. Same as the Kobo Clara HD, which is its predecessor, the Clara 2e relies on that 6-inch form factor. And even though the HD name was dropped, it still has the same high pixel density of 300 ppi. There's also a front light which is color temperature adjustable. The display technology was upgraded to eEncoder 1200, which is the latest display technology from the e-encoding. So let's see how this all translates into practical use and have a look at build quality and haptics first. The design of the Kobo Clara 2e is very similar to the Clara HD, and on first glance it's hard to distinguish them. But Kobo made some changes to the frame which are most noticeable when picking up the e-reader. The edges aren't as sharp anymore and there are a lot more curves to the design. That makes the Kobo Clara 2e comfortable to hold. The build quality is great, but the feel of the hard plastic on the front and especially on the back isn't great. In my opinion, it feels a little better than on the new basic Kindle, but still a bit cheap. What's great though is the use of recycled plastic. The exterior of the e-reader is made with over 85% recycled plastic, so that's a great way to minimize your environmental footprint a little more. The color scheme of the Kobo Clara 2e is another interesting part. The front of the e-reader is black, as it's often the case with digital reading devices, but the back cover is dark blue, which under certain lighting conditions almost looks like it's black as well. I love how this subtle color selection makes the e-reader unique, but not stand out too much. The power button placement changed as well. The button is now larger, round and moved from the bottom edge of the device to the back, which is so much more convenient. There are no other buttons unfortunately, so no physical page turn buttons on the Clara 2e. For that you need to have a look at the Kobo Libra 2, for which you find the link to the review in the description below. With a weight of 171 grams, it's not as light as the new Kindle with 158 grams, but close enough for it being never inconvenient to hold, even for longer periods of time. The Kobo Clara 2e is IPX8 water resistant, which means it can survive up to 60 minutes in up to 2 meters of fresh water. The e-reader has 16 gigs of non-expandable internal storage, of which around 14 gigs are accessible by the user. That much storage is needed because the e-reader also has audiobook support. And last but not least on the feature list is also USB-C, which makes the Kobo Clara 2e future-proof for charging and wired file transfer as well. What didn't change is the chipset. Kobo is still using the same single-core SoC, which was being used in the Clara HD and Libra 2. I filed this under good to know and wouldn't list it as a disadvantage. The reason why Kobo went for a quad-core CPU with the Ellipse and Sage was note-taking. Since the Clara 2e doesn't support handwritten notes, there's no need for more performance. Having said that, the Clara 2e is a bit slower when compared to the new Kindle for example, but I wouldn't say it's a huge problem in everyday use and mostly noticeable when navigating the user interface, not inside a book. The display is arguably the most important part of an e-reader. At least it always has been for me, because I can't fully immerse myself into a story if issues with the display quality are distracting me. I'm happy to say that the Kobo Clara 2e has actually one of the best 6-inch displays out there. The screen was updated to eEncoder 1200 technology, which is the best e-paper technology on the market at this point. And it shows, because contrast levels are great, especially when activating the built-in light. It's on a similar level as the Kindle Paperwhite and Kobo Libra 2. Same as the other two, ghosting is basically a non-issue with the Clara 2e for normal reading. Kobo is now also providing a dark mode. As a result, activating it will turn the background black and the text white. Ghosting is then a little bit more obvious, but that's the case with all other manufacturers as well when dark mode is activated. It's the combination of the sharp 300 ppi resolution, which makes text super crisp, with the deep black levels, which makes text really pop. As a result, reading on the Kobo Clara 2e is really a joy. The illumination itself is also very good. It works the same way as on any other current e-reader. The LEDs are positioned in the frame at the bottom of the display and illuminate the screen with the help of a special carrier film which sits on top of the display and distributes the light. That way the LEDs don't directly shine into your eyes, like it's the case with backlit displays you usually find on smartphones and tablets. Thanks to the built-in light, you can use the e-reader in complete darkness, and thanks to a reflective ink screen, obviously also in direct sunlight. The light color is also adjustable and ranges from cold white to warm orange and can be adapted to pretty much anything in between. During the day, you usually set it up to be white. At night, you turn the screen to a more orange light setting, which is said to help with not disturbing sleep quality. If that's the case or not, that's still being debated, but I personally only use e-readers with light color adjustment anymore. Because in my highly scientific testing, when I suddenly turn off the orange LEDs at night and illuminate the screen only with white LEDs while not changing brightness, it's downright uncomfortable for my eyes. So for me, that's a pretty clear sign that blue light is a little bit more problematic at night. The lighting quality is very even throughout the screen, with only one small exception. At the very bottom of the display there are subtle shadows and halos. But they aren't a problem in everyday use because they aren't large enough to reach the text and as a result aren't noticeable when reading. Besides that, there's no brightness gradient visible to the naked eye, which makes the Kobo Clara 2e one of the most evenly illuminated devices in the 6-inch segment and definitely one of the best choices when it comes to display quality. The Kobo Clara 2e is using the same user interface the company has been refining for over a decade now, which is very minimalistic and as a result looks nice and clean. I'd say it's one of the most clearly arranged UIs for an e-reader out there. What I dislike about it, however, is the need to connect the e-reader to the internet when starting it up for the first time. There's no way around connecting it to a Kobo user account. Kobo has been doing it this way since the beginning, and I hated it back then and I still wish it wasn't the case. I get why they want to build a stable user base, but as an end user I don't appreciate being forced in setting it up this way. Let's talk about book-related functions and check out the library first. It offers a few different filtering and sorting options and also series and collections. Those can be used with Calibre tags as well after setting it up for Kobo. Inside a book you can create notes with a long tab on the screen and enter the note with the QWERTY keyboard in the pop-up after selecting the option in the context menu. When selecting a single word that way, the dictionary is automatically shown in a small window, no extra tab necessary like with some other manufacturers. There are explanatory and translation dictionaries available, and pretty much all of them come from reputable sources. Besides the dictionary function, you can also look up a word using Wikipedia or Google. The browser opens in a pop-up window and is the same as in the beta section of the device settings. The browser is in beta since I first tested the Kobo e-reader more than 10 years ago. Kobo should think about finishing development at some point in my opinion. But to be honest, it seems like there hasn't been much development in the past couple of years there, because it's a rather slow browsing experience, especially when compared to other manufacturers. Text styling options are as great as always and allow you to adapt text pretty much however you like. Font size, font weight, line spacing and page margins can be changed with sliders. And of course you can also change the font itself. Just keep in mind that you should convert regular EPUB files to KEPUB files for having all options available when sideloading ebooks. KEPUB generally works better on any Kobo device as it's Kobo's own format, which is based on the standard EPUB format. When buying ebooks directly in the built-in store, there's obviously no need for converting anything. The dark mode, which I already mentioned when talking about display quality, is a nice to have feature but isn't implemented as well as on Kindle. It's only available inside a book and only the actual text is inverted. So all other UI elements still have the regular black on white setting, which I found a bit annoying because suddenly you have this bright white background in front of you, which blinds you for a second or two when exiting a book or writing a note, for example. Text styling options for regular books are great, but PDF functionality unfortunately isn't. Thanks to the sharp 300 ppi screen, you can actually read even large format PDF files on the small 6-inch display, but other than pinch to zoom, you don't have any advanced options to enhance readability of the PDF. Navigating a PDF file works okay, but definitely isn't one of the Kobo Clara 2e's strengths. So I wouldn't recommend in getting a Kobo Clara 2e for mainly reading PDFs. Luckily, audiobook support is much better. You can play audiobooks via Bluetooth speakers or headphones, And the whole system is heavily built around Kobo's own audiobook offering, which pretty much mirrors Amazon's approach with Audible. But unlike Amazon, Kobo is allowing to sideload audiobooks and music onto the Clara 2e, which is a huge plus. But there's a catch. Doing so won't use the same app as for Kobo's audiobooks, but a secondary audio player which doesn't look very nice. In fact, it looks unfinished because it's just a bunch of links on the screen, but it works as expected. Just keep this in mind if you intend to get audiobooks from somewhere else. Another potential issue is that audiobook support is localized, meaning that you can't purchase audiobooks in some countries. But that's not the full story. If you have your Kobo Clara 2e registered in a country where Kobo isn't offering audiobooks, you can't access the audiobook function on the e-reader. The easiest way to find out if that's the case for your country is checking out the Kobo website with your country selected. If you don't see the audiobooks item in the main navigation, you can't purchase audiobooks on the e-reader as well. Same as with Kindle, you can purchase ebooks directly on the e-reader. To open the store, you have to select the Discover menu item, which I personally find a bit odd. Just name it Store and be done with it. The store itself is easy to use and offers granular filtering options. It also follows the same design language as the rest of the user interface, so it looks like it's part of the system. Buying a book basically works the same way as on any Kindle. The main difference is the first setup, because when getting a Kindle, it's often already linked to an account, so you don't have to enter any payment details. If you don't already have a Kobo account, that's obviously needed to pay for the books. I thought there was no need for an update to the already very good Kobo Clara HD. But with the Clara 2e, Kobo actually made the right call. The most important improvement can be seen with the screen. The jump in display quality isn't as huge as from the Libra HTO to the Libra 2, but still noticeable in direct comparison. So while I wouldn't recommend to upgrade to the Clara 2e from the Clara HD, it's definitely a great choice when coming from an older e-reader. Putting display quality aside, there are some other things that make the Clara 2e worth getting as well. The refined housing with water protection, clean and intuitive software with audiobook support, and the lightweight compact form factor, which is becoming increasingly rare in the world of ever-growing display sizes. On the other side, there are only 3 minor issues which aren't deal breakers in my opinion. The first one being the comparatively slow user interface. It's not annoyingly slow, but could definitely be a bit faster. The second one is the lackluster dark mode implementation, which simply isn't as good as on Kindle. And the third is the not so great audio player for side-loaded content. But at least it's there, so you can count it as a plus as well, depending on how you want to look at it. So all in all, the Kobo Clara 2e is one of the best 6-inch e-readers you can get at the moment. With its color temperature adjustment and waterproofing, it has an edge over the Kindle in terms of hardware. I will do a separate comparison video on the Kindle and Kobo Clara 2e shortly, so subscribe to the channel to not miss it. In the meantime, make sure to also check out my Kindle review. Thanks for your time watching and see you there.